So I want to reflect on one aspect that is a concept or a philosophy or an idea that we use when we are talking about an all-knowing God. So God who knows everything, He knows everything. So He's a being with infinite and perfect understanding of all things. So He has infinite knowledge, and we are going to look at that in a lot of details. So to begin us off, we are talking about Omniscient God, the Omniscience God. So we are talking about a representation of ultimate form of knowledge. And as I've said, we are talking about a God who has ultimate knowledge and who possesses complete, infinite, and perfect knowledge of everything that has, that is, that will ever occur in the universe. The idea of omniscience is often linked to traditional concepts of God in monotheistic religions, especially like our Christianity. So God is described as all-knowing, is omniscient, and is without limitations in understanding or wisdom. So let me highlight some key concepts here. Omniscience or omniscience, omniscience. The root of this word is Latin. Omni means all, omni. And then scientia means knowledge. So omniscience refers to the ability to know everything. A being with omniscience would have an infinite, perfect understanding of all things, whether in the past, in the present, or in the future. So God's attributes, as we have discussed elsewhere, in theological traditions, God is often described with other omni attributes, such as omnipotence, meaning all-powerful, omnibenevolence, meaning all good or all loving, and omnipresence, that is present everywhere. Another concept I want us to look at the implications of omniscience. An omniscient being would know all facts, events, actions, thoughts, and motivations, including those of free-willed beings. The challenge of reconciling omniscience with the free will is a common topic in our philosophical and theological discussions. If God knows the future, do humans truly have free will? Or are they destined to act in a way already known to God? So this is a topic we are going to delve in a little bit as we go on. The implications of omniscience. That if God knows the future, He knows the past and He knows the present, do humans truly have free will, or are they destined to act in a way already known to God? So let us follow up and see philosophical and theological implications. The problem of evil. So if God is omniscient and knows all suffering and evil in the world, how does this reconcile with the concept of a benevolent deity? and predestination and free will. If God knows every event that will happen, can humans truly make free choices? This leads to debates about determinism and free will. In a broader and more speculative sense, an omniscient God refers to a transcendent intelligence that is all-knowing in a way that extends beyond traditional religious contexts, perhaps even encompassing all universal knowledge, both material and metaphysical. So there is a conflict between omniscience and free will, as we have said, and it is one that of the most enduring and profound philosophical and theological dilemmas. And often the questions that come is that if God or a supreme being knows everything, including all future events, can humans still have free will and make their own choices? Now let us look at this problem a little broadly. Omniscience refers to the ability of a being to know everything. So there is some being in existence that knows everything, and in this regard we are talking about God, who knows everything, past, present, and future. A God with omniscience, who has the ability to know everything. He knows every thought, he knows every action, and he knows every decision of every person, and he knows exactly what will happen in the future. Now, on the free will, on the other hand, is the ability of individuals to make choices that are not predetermined or forced by external factors. It suggests that humans have the autonomy to make decisions and act in ways that are not entirely controlled by fate or divine will. So there appears to be a conflict here, arising from that problem. If God knows the future because of omniscience, it would seem that the future is already determined. And if the future is already determined, then human choices might be seen as preordained or illusory, meaning people would not truly have free will, since their actions are already known and set by God. So that is the problem that we are going to look at. So what are the key theological and philosophical positions on this issue? The first one is compatibilism, and if we are defining, the position argues that omniscience and free will are compatible. Even if God knows everything, humans can still have free will, because God's knowledge does not force or determine human choices. And that is important. God's knowledge does not force or determine human forces. So how does it work? God's foreknowledge doesn't cause people to act in a specific way. Instead, God simply knows in advance what humans will choose freely. In other words, people will make genuine choices, but God knows what those choices will be beforehand. And that is why we just read in John 23, 24, 25 that Jesus knows all people. So philosophical examples. Imagine a person deciding to pick an apple or an orange, even if someone knew in advance what the person would choose. It doesn't mean that the person was forced to choose that way. The person still had the freedom to choose. So, as simple as that. So, open theism, we are saying that it suggests that God does not have exhaustive knowledge of the future, especially regarding free will choices. The future is not completely known because it's partially open and undetermined, and humans' decisions are truly free. That is what open theism assumes. And how does it work? In this view, God knows everything that is knowable, but the future is not fully known because it involves genuine free choice that humans make. Thus, free will is preserved, and God interacts with creation in an open-ended way. Now, if we make a philosophical example of open theism, is that if human decisions are truly open and not predetermined, then God cannot know the future in the same way He knows the past and the present. God's knowledge might be dynamic, adjusting to human choices as they occur. That is the idea of open theism. Determinism. Now, determinism is the belief that all events, including human actions, are determined by prior causes. In a theological deterministic view, God's omniscience means that everything, including human choices, is already known and set. So how does it work? If God knows the future perfectly and in advance, it would be argued that all human decisions are predestined or determined by God's will or by the conditions He created, including the laws of nature. In this view, free will is an illusion. So, philosophical example, a person's decision to act in a certain way is not truly free, but are determined by prior causes, such as God's knowledge of what will happen. Every choice has been set in motion long before the individual makes it. So if we are looking at it from determinism point of view, that is what choices, free will would mean. So Molinism is the middle knowledge. Molinism is the middle knowledge. So Molinism is a view that seeks to reconcile free will and divine omniscience by positing that God knows not only what will happen, but also what could happen under any set of circumstances. This is called middle knowledge. How does it work? According to Molinism, God knows all possible worlds, including the different ways free agents could act in any given situation. This allows for human free will because while God knows all possibilities, He does not causally determine the actual choices humans will make. Humans will have the freedom to choose, but God knows which choice they will freely make in any scenario. So looking at it from a philosophical example, God knows every potential choice a person could make in every situation, but He doesn't force those choices. Instead, He allows humans to act freely, even though He knows the exact outcome. So, theological fatalism on the other side, let us look at it and see what it means. This position suggests that God's omniscience and human free will are in direct conflict, and that divine foreknowledge means humans cannot be truly free. How does it work? If God knows the future with certainty, and the future includes all human choices, then it could be argued that people's actions are inevitable because God already knows what they will do. This undermines the concept of genuine free will because the knowledge of future events seems to dictate what will happen. What are the example we can get here, philosophical example? If you believe in a future where God already knows every decision you will make, it might feel like you are already making those decisions since they were already known in advance. Now let us look at a few considerations. The nature of God's knowledge. Some philosophers argue that God's omniscience might not involve merely knowing the future as a sequence of events, but knowing the truth of all possibilities and all potential outcomes. God's knowledge may be more dynamic, allowing for human freedom. Now, another consideration is human understanding of time. The conflict often arises because we are bound by time, while an omniscient being would be outside time. From a timeless perspective, all events, past, present, future, may be seen as occurring simultaneously in God's knowledge, which challenges our typical understanding of causality and free will. The moral responsibility. If free will is an illusion due to divine foreknowledge, then moral responsibility could be called into question. How can people be held responsible for actions that were foreordained or known in advance? So these debates between omniscience and free will may look complex and multifaceted, but while some argue that both can coexist, others see the tension between the two as irresolvable. The approach one takes often depends on their views on the nature of time, God's interaction with the world, and the meaning of free will. There is no definitive answer, but the discussion provides rich insights into the nature of knowledge, freedom, and morality.